On Amy Hill Creates. And for this week, I can't believe we're at week 20 with journaling with intention. So thank you so much. And if you've been joining us every single week, our focus is to set up for the week. So what is it that we want to do? What do we want our week to look like? What's our focus going to be for the week? And that's what we call it intention, because we're hoping that we'll get there and we're setting ourselves up for the best for the week. But sometimes you don't, and that's okay too. So, hey, everybody. So it's so nice to have you guys here. So we have Melly, we have Kathy, and Anne. Thank you so much for joining me. And today I've been thinking about this, and I've been working on recipes. That was one of the things that I wanted to do. So I'm going to set up a recipe page today. And of course, I'm going to set up my weekly page. So those are our two focus for today. So Nisa's here, and Tina, it's so good that you are here today. I would love to know how your week went. Did you do anything special? So for me, one thing that I'm going to be adding into the tracker that I have is I have a weekly farm share. So I'm part of this CSA, which is Community Supported Agriculture. And so I've paid for a part of a farm, and every week I go and I pick up produce. And so it's kind of exciting. I don't know what the heck I'm going to get. And I want to know what I get. And I kind of want to keep track of that. So I'm taking pictures of each of the things that I get. So I'm putting that in there. Hey, Leslie. Hi, Nancy and Tracy and Melly. It's so good that you guys are here today. Thank you so much. All right, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get started because we got two things. Hi, Saskia. And Saskia, we're doing recipes today. So I'm going to decorate my recipe page. I have some kind of cute stencils and stamps, those little mini stamp sets that have like little mini foods. I'm going to use those all over my page. So that we're going to put that in there. Hey, Phyllis. I hope that you are doing well. And some of you are new, so I'm going to just show you what we've been working on, as this is week 20. I can't believe. So again, we started in January, and I will show you all the stuff we have done. And if you're like, oh my gosh, can I do this? Can I start? Absolutely. Just start. That's the key, is to just start. And tracking is a really great way. So, sometimes our lives get really busy and we forget, oh my gosh, what did I do? Or you just feel like your days just kind of start to blend into each other. And so this is just a nice way to keep track of things. So I have a variety of ways that you can do that. And that's what we talk about each week, is how do you keep track of all the stuff that's kind of happening and going on? So I have my little trusty cup here with all my little pens, and of course, my tiny ruler, because you got to have a tiny ruler. And this is my book. So I picked up this book. Gosh, I don't even know how much it was. I probably had a coupon. And it's a dot. It is a dot book. So you can see it's got little tiny dots in it. And I like that because it still has a white space to it, so I can do anything with this. Or I can use it in order to kind of keep my lines straight. So just as a reminder, because I saw that we saw quite a lot of new people, thank you so much for joining us. And thank you to all the people who come every single week. I really appreciate that you're spreading the word. And if this is helpful for you, please spread that word and invite other people to come in, because it's a lot of fun. Honestly, if I didn't have you guys, I probably wouldn't be doing it either. But so when we started way back in January, we started just by kind of thinking about what is it that our year is going to look like. And I always think about January as that time when you start doing New Year's resolutions, but nobody ever keeps those New Year's resolutions. And so this was the one thing I'm going to think about. I'm not going to keep resolutions. I'm going to do intentions. And then that's what I'm going to do, is every single week I'm going to make some sort of small change. And by the end of the year, I will have accomplished all these. And so this is just all of my things that I wanted to focus on for the year. So these are kind of like my New Year's resolutions. And then what we do is every single month we have a focus page for the month where, what do you want to do for the month? And so I decorated and doing different things. So this is our January. We also had an episode where we made tabs for each of our things. And then we track. And this has really changed. So this was my first attempt at tracking. And this has changed as we go through. And you'll see I've also kind of added things in about staying grounded. So I've added all the things that kind of help me. I've added in things that I'm grateful for. And you can see my trackers have changed. This is March. And so this was a focus that we had on stamping. So I use stamping for this tracker, and you can see my tracker looks different. And then as I went through, changed up my tracker again. And that's what you want to do, is like as each week goes by, you might want to focus on something different. And you might want to have something that, because your focus is changing of what you want to track, it's okay for your tracker to change. And that's what I like about this, is I can recreate this every single month and do something different. So this was stenciling for April. And then for May, we used washi tape. And I changed up my tracking and I added in photos. So I kind of started to say, you know what? Maybe I want to kind of see visually what the heck is going on. So I added this Sights of May. That was nice because I also added something called a blooming tracker, and I was taking pictures of what was happening inside of my garden. And so that was really helpful. We talked about also, using these graphic organizers in order to kind of help us in sort of breaking down each of these steps, and changed up my tracker again. So this has been really great, kind of having this, hey, what are you doing each day, to kind of take some time for yourself. And we did this little graph and color coded the graph. And then this is what we did last week. So last week we set up our June. So this was my focus on June, and we used some washi tape, and I just had this random piece that I had watercolored, and that was last week was really about use what you have, and think about that moving forward. So this week, what I'm going to do is two things. Way back when, I had created something called a recipe tracker, and I never used it. It is blank. I did not put anything in this. So one of the things that's going on is two things. I am getting that farm share, but then I'm also starting my own garden. So I already printed out my pictures for this week, and you can see I have little tiny baby plants, little tiny baby plants. And this is going to be food for me. So I want to keep track of how am I using these things that I'm planting in my recipe tracker, but I'm also going to be adding in my vegetable tracker. So all the food that I'm growing, how am I doing with it? What does it look like as we move along? So that's something that I'm going to put in as well. So I'm going to start with, in fact, I'm going to put a piece of washi in here so I know I'm coming back here. I'm going to start this week with creating my weekly tracker. And so this is something that I use each week. And I set it up. And what I do is I take 5 minutes out of my day, and I just kind of think about my day, and I put those things in here. And that's how I can kind of keep track. And it helps to regulate. And we used that word a couple of weeks ago about self-regulation. And it just kind of helps you regulate, get all of your thoughts and your ideas from your day out onto paper, so you're not using those at nighttime to keep yourself up. So one of the pieces that I use is this color swatches stencil, and you don't need this, but I really like it because it has all of these boxes, and you could use any stencil that had kind of these boxes in it. And it's it's really easy to use because I can use these in any configuration that I want to. It's really my own imagination that kind of frames what the heck I'm doing. So this I'm going to use for little boxes here. So I'm going to start off with the date. And my color scheme this week, I don't know what I was thinking, but I just pulled these colors. Isn't that pretty? I was thinking like a soft pastel pink with mint. And I had this random washi from gosh knows when that has pink and mint in it. So that's what I'm using for this one today. So I am going to grab mint greenish. And our week coming up, I can't believe we are in June. I can't believe this is week 20, but that we are in June. So we are starting June 5th. And I think this goes through the 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Yeah, the 11th. 11th. If I'm wrong, somebody grab me, but I think that's right. Might be the 10th. Savannah took my phone. Oh, these are great. Tracy, thank you so much. I need those recipes. And you guys are right. This is a work in progress. Absolutely. And it's something that you take this and use it as your own. If you don't need to like track your moods and track what you're doing every day, but maybe you want to track your card making, or you want to track your progress in crafting, your progress in learning a new skill, anything like that, and that's what you want to track. This is really great because it shows again that, you know, you may see somebody who's like an amazing colorist or crafter, but then, you know, you got to recognize that that is a lot. There's a lot of hours involved and a lot of practice involved in these things. So, you know, nobody just kind of wakes up and can do everything. There's a lot involved in it that we have to recognize. That's right. The retreat is the 10th. So that's exciting for that. All right. So that is June 5th to June 11th. And I'm going to keep my same setup that I've been doing. And so I kind of like this because it gives me space to add everything up. And obviously there's 7 days in a week. But what I do is I divide this into 8 sections because I have a section called Looking Back to Move Ahead. And that's my reflection on the week. So that's when I take a little bit of extra time on a Sunday and I'm like, okay, what is it that that I kind of need to focus on? What did I do this week? What happened? And what do I want to change or alter moving forward? All right, so I like doing this in centimeters. And it's just because it's a little bit easier. So I just take my page and I just divide it in half. And I'm just going to take that line and just draw that all the way down. And because I have this dotted journal, it's a little bit easier for me to make sure that my line is as straight as possible. But if it's crooked, it's my book. No one else is seeing it. It's not a super big deal. So I'm going to divide this into 8 sections. And so that means that I need 3 dividers, into 4 times 2, which is 8. So each one of these are approximately, I think, 4 centimeters is right. So I'm just going to mark these off. So there's 1, there's 2, and there is 3. And just draw these lines across. And so this is just marking out where each of my days are going to go. Now, you can put whatever you want to in this. What I like to track is sometimes I like to track what I eat. Sometimes I like to track what I do because I forget. And yes, you are welcome, Leslie. I actually, I prefer using metric over English units, to be perfectly honest, because it just makes a lot more sense to me. I don't know why in America, we like to use English, the other units. I don't know why. All right, so I'm going to grab my color swatches stencil, and I'm just going to use a different green, and this is just going to highlight each of my days. And this is just going to stand out a little bit more. So in here, I have June 5th. And I'm just going to put each of these out. Metric is easier because then you don't need fractions. So everything's in decimals. I do better in decimals, base 10. All right, here we go. And last one. My students these past couple of weeks have been doing their own projects. They've been doing independent research projects. And we got some good ones. We have some good ones. One group is using different types of like sugars in order to determine yeast growth, like yeast activation. And then they're using that to make bread. So they've been taste testing bread. And I told them they had to convert all their cups and ounces and everything over to the metric system, because that's what we use in science. All right, so that's the 10th, and then June 11th. And then this one is our looking backward to go forward. Yes, I am an anti-fractionate. I agree. And metric is why we have 10 fingers and toes. Exactly, right? I'm glad you guys are with me on the metric system. And like I said, I use this little space down here just to kind of reflect back on my week. And it just gives a nice summary. What are the things that you've done, et cetera, et cetera? What are those things that you're doing? All right. So on this side, I just realized what I like to do is I actually like to divide this down the middle. But since I've been doing this tracker, it doesn't go all the way. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. Now, my bloom tracker, pretty much most everything in my garden is bloomed or has bloomed. So I'm going to replace this section, or actually I might divide it up with my vegetable garden. So that's what I've been trying to figure out is how do I get my vegetable garden in? And I'm pointing over here at my top two pieces. I may do like a separate piece on this, but I kind of wanted to track it each week. So that's why I think I need something like that. So where I have this bloom tracker, I think I'm going to just kind of cut this into piece and let's do like a little vegetable tracker on here. I do keep the mood tracker. That's been really fabulous. Just kind of helping me kind of figure out some things for myself. And then this regulation tracker has been really great because the regulation tracker was something that I did in order to say, hey, what are the things that I'm doing for myself? And how am I handling those? And it's been nice because then I get this little colorful thing. You could do this as like an activity tracker. I could see that. Are you lifting weights or are you walking? How much are you walking? You could do this as a water tracker. Before we were using that section as a way to track things like water and exercise, and we were just using little dot graphs. But that is a little bit, I just kind of like it. So it all depends on what you want to track and how you want to track that. So I'm going to take that piece of washi and I need that lime green because that's what I'm using this week. And again, I am grabbing this. I have all the washi that I have. Couldn't tell you where I got it. It is had it for a long time. And I am just using what I got. That's really what I'm doing, is using what I got. Actually, I'm going to change this up. I'm going to use this mint one instead. All right, so I'm just going to take this and I'm going to go about a quarter of the way down, kind of halfway-ish. All right, that looks good. 16 toes. I cannot imagine that. 8 and 8, huh? But yes, metric system all the way for me. All the way. I'd love to know if you guys have changed things up. Is there anything that you're tracking that this has been helpful for you? Great for pounds. Yeah, coffee tracker. Need a bigger book, Lisa. Yes, how many cups or how much you're buying, different types of coffee you've sampled. I could see that. Different coffee shops that you have explored. Journal, like if you wanted to say like all the places that we've been, where you have visited. It's kind of fun. And this is kind of fun too because it creates like a little art book. And it's really, we're all creative. There we go. We're all creative people. Everybody is creative in one way or another. So this kind of helps you to have that little creative bit. And nobody's looking at it. So it's not like anybody's kind of saying, hey, do this or not or whatever. Yeah, that's great. And number of cards made and sent. All these things. It's really nice. And then you can look back. Remember, that idea is that when we get to December, we're looking back to say, wow, we've actually done a lot of stuff. And because sometimes you just forget because the brain, it's like kind of like goldfish. You have so much piled in there that sometimes you forget. So you need to put it down somewhere so you remember. All right. So for my mood tracker, again, I'm coming back to the this stencil, which I love this stencil. It's really fabulous for these kind of things. And I am going to put in, because I don't want to use pink. I am just going to put in each of the days. So I'm going to start off, there's 7 days. So I track that. This is really great for symptomology. Like if you're trying to track any sort of symptoms, digestive symptoms, if you've made any changes and you're like, you're taking different medications and you just kind of want to track to see how those medications are going. This little tiny tracker is really helpful. And I have to say, I got this from one of my students when we went to on a very large field trip. I asked the kids to journal. And she's like, I can't write. I'm really sad and I can't write. But I put an emoji in. And I said, that's actually pretty good. So she would just literally put an emoji in, and that's what I do. All right, so this is 6/5. And play around. I encourage you to kind of like play around with anything that you want to track. Play around with different ways to track it. I think I've had about 4 or 5 within the 20 weeks. I probably had about 4 different ways that I'm tracking things, and exactly like Excel spreadsheets. And that's great, Nancy, because then you can really see like all of that information there right away. And it's really helpful. And that's great, Tracy, about tracking your sugars. It helps. Oh, that's so great. Yoga. I like all these things, Tracy. Yoga, language, lessons, books read, cards made, no carb meal days, salad days. These are great. And yes, Phyllis, gratitude journal. And that gratitude piece, Phyllis, I don't know, you got a chance to see that. I made this as a way to kind of create all the things that I was grateful for, or all the things that I do for myself. And then I have a similar piece that is a gratitude piece. These are all the things that kind of like I'm grateful for and make me happy. And it's just nice to use your things like your stenciling and your stamps and creating these little bubbles and colored them in. And it's just fun to kind of create these backgrounds and see how they work. All right, this I'm going to separate out. So I'm going to use this again. This pink, actually, no, I'm going to use this pink. I'm just going to put a very thin piece of washi here. And I'm going to separate this out this way. I could make a third column, but I think I want to do it wide because I want to put words in. There we go. Scissors. All right, and I cut all these pieces off. I don't fold the washi under because I'm going to be using the page next week, so that's why I do it this way. All right, so what I'm going to add in is I'm going to put in a bloom tracker and my vegetable tracker. And I just put the little boxes in because that helps to just delineate it out from something else. All right, so bloom tracker. And this is my vegetable tracker. All right, and look at my peonies. These all bloomed. Check out my peonies. Gorgeous. Love them. So what I have here, what I used is this little Canon. I did a little demo on this, I don't know how many weeks ago, maybe 4 weeks ago. And this is great because it prints out these little squares that I think are 3 by 3 or 2 3/4 by 3. They are almost 2 3/4 by 2 3/4. Yeah, almost. We'll give it 2.5. It's 2.5 by 2.5. So I can print out one big huge picture, or in this case, I have 4 pictures. And this is actually sticky paper. And so I can actually just cut this, and that's what I'm going to do, is I'm just going to cut this. And these are all the fabulous things that are going on. So I have my garden, my little food garden. I have my vegetable haul. And I think I'm going to put my haul in my tracker. So I'm going to save this little picture to put on my other tracker. Last week's, because that was today. I picked those up today. All right, so that goes today. But you can see here, so this is my vegetable garden tracker. And then I have my little bloom tracker. So these are actually self-adhesive, so I can just peel the back off, which takes some doing. There we go. And here are my peonies. And that was actually something that I was waiting for, because I was like, I know they bloom in June, but sometimes I forget, so I'm not so sure. Right, Leslie? Thank you. They are gorgeous. And unfortunately, it always happens. They bloom, and then we always get this like massive rainstorm, which really stinks. So I have to pull them in, and then I have like peony petals all over the place. And then my cats like to eat them. So it ends up being like a little bit of a problem. And this is actually tomatoes and strawberries. So here, strawberries are perennials. So I didn't do anything to these strawberries, and they overwintered on my deck. And now I have strawberries, and I'm very excited. And then I have a new garden, and I put in cucumbers and peppers. I put in broccoli, did not make it. And I put in marigolds as well, just to kind of keep the bugs and everything down. And then I went and I got a couple more plants. So that's my little vegetable garden tracker. And it's just nice to have those little pictures. So I can add a little bit of words, but that's just really nice to have that there. Okay, so now I'm going to grab a pencil, maybe. I don't have a pencil. Pickling cucumbers. Yes, I do both. I do both, Tracy. I do pickling cucumbers, and then I do slicing cucumbers. And then I got a whole bunch of tomatoes. So I picked up 2 more tomato plants from the farm stand today. And so I have 4 different types of tomatoes growing. So I'm really excited for all of this. So excited. All right, so June 10th, if you don't know, is our retreat. So we have our card making retreat. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in now. So that is next week. I'm really excited for that. Yes. And that was one thing, actually. I think I'm going to do a tracker for all the things that I pickle, like all the stuff that I make. I have a bunch of jars. Brian was going to kill me because he's like, why do we need so many mason jars? And I'm like, no, I need all these mason jars because I made jelly last year. Or I made jam last year. I made hummus last year. I made pesto last year. Like I made all of these things and then had it in there. I want to do sauce. I want to do some more like pickling things and jar things. So I'm going to use that as a tracker as well. All right. So for this graph, any graph that you do, all you really need is 2 lines. I know graphs can kind of be confusing sometimes, but really all you need is 2 lines. And what I've been doing here, because I'm creating a bar graph instead of making it a dot plot, I am just taking these, using centimeters again, ladies, using some centimeters again. And all I'm doing is just setting this out. So this is a day. So here we have 1 day. So here is Monday. Or Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So here is the end of my graph. And that is not a good eraser. This is a better eraser. All right. Okay. So that is the end of my graph. And I'm just going to go ahead and put in my dates. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and then Sunday. And then on this side, what I'm doing is my minutes. And so I've been tracking the number of minutes that I have of regulation, so things that I'm doing. And then over here on this side, this is probably the last week that I'm going to do this because I don't really need to do this anymore. But it was something that I kind of, for a couple of weeks, I really needed this. So what I have over here on the side is I just grab these little sections and I'm going to do just a few of these. So I have one, and these are all the activities. And I'm going to assign each of these activities, it's 4. I'm going to assign each of these activities a color. And so I'm just creating a key for this. So things like crafting, whatever it happens to be. So you're just going to grab your colors. So I got this, red, orange, yellow. I know this looks brown, but it can't brighten without yellow. Blue. I need a green and a purple. All right. So you have the colors of the rainbow. My alternate eraser right here, that's the one I used because it works so well. So, all right. So I'm going to put some stuff in here. So I'm going to start out with crafting. So crafting can be anything, right? It could be that I'm making cards. It could be that I'm coloring. It could be that I'm doing whatever the heck it happens to be, but that's crafting. I'm going to put in walking here, and I'm going to separate out the exercises. I want to add in biking because I can do that now. So I'm going to add that in. So I'm going to add in biking on that one. I do want to separate out and add in coloring. So this is my yellow. I know it looks brown. It's like a dark yellow. It's just because if I use yellow in there, you can't see it very well. And then what are some of the other stuff that I have? I think I'm going to put in gardening because I definitely need to get out there. My garden has a lot of weeds in it. So that's my gardening. That's an activity that I want to do. And then all right, I want to add in journaling. And the other thing that I want to make sure I'm doing is meditating. So I can take my colored pencils, and I'll just do one of these. I don't want to do them all because I want to make sure I have time for the rest of it. But like I'll just take this red, and I'm just going to go ahead and color this in. A little bit lighter so you can still see those words because I use the flare pens. But that is right there. So that way I know that that is right. And yes, absolutely, I'm adding in biking so I can bike with you, Saskia. All right, so here's my pink. Just put in a little bit of pink here. And what I'm going to do is when I do these each day, this is part of my journaling, my little 5 minutes at home. At the end of the day is I'm just going to go ahead up. So now I need to determine what my time is on this side. And I lost my ruler. It kind of fell over here. So this was going to be 80 minutes. And this is 0. So what I do is I kind of look at the half. So that's about 40. And then I look at this and I divide that in half again. So that's about 20. And then this is half. So that's about 60. And so that's what I do. And so now my little graph is all set. And I have it done. Boom, done. And that's nice because, again, I'm going to come in and I'll color. And I know, for instance, on Saturday, I'm going to be crafting quite a bit. And so I can already start by putting that color in. So even things if you want to set up, but this is what it's going to end up looking like. So this is up to 80 minutes. I know I'm going to be teaching a 2-hour class on Saturday. So that is going to go all the way up here. And so that Saturday is all set. And if I end up doing some more things, then I can just go ahead and layer those on there as well. All right, so that's our weekly tracker. And so this is all set. It's ready for me to add some things in, and it is ready for me to set up for my week. So I hope you crafted along with me. That would be super awesome. Now what I'm going to do is I always like to do kind of like our weekly page and then something else. And so now I'm going to get over to the recipe tracker. And I've been thinking about how I've wanted to do this. And I started just by kind of like listing out the things, but I'm like, I'm kind of getting some different types of foods. And I'm like, how do I want to separate these out? So that's what I've been thinking about, is how to divide these things up, because I'd love to have a little picture of what I make. I don't need to list out ingredients or do any of these things, because I actually have another book that I have used that for. So I already have another book, and this actually has recipes and stuff in it that I write down ingredients and how to do things. And so that's not what I'm using this for. This is for me just to, like, if I'm feeling like I need some inspiration on recipes, that's what I actually want to use this for. But I also want to make it a little pretty. So what I grabbed, and what I'm going to end up doing, is doing some soft stamping all over these pages. And that I do it soft stamping, so that way what I can do is I can write on top of it, and it's not a super big deal. I just wrote this down, so I'm going to start actually here and doing some better blue. Can you find me a blue washi that's thicker? I have a little, I have an assistant next to me. That's what I'm kind of over here. So what I grabbed from my stash, because I saw a couple of things that I thought were really cute. And I have this one called Way Too Sweet. I don't know if you guys have this stamp set. So cute. Oh, thank you so much, Tracy. And then I have this, and I don't think I ever purchased the stamp set, which is kind of not super awesome, but I have the stencil. So I think this actually would be super perfect. And it has little teacups, and it has little carafes, and it's got little teapots and some flowers, and then some, it also has some little teacups and some cupcakes. So I thought that was cute. And then I have all these little minis. And my minis, I have a little cupcake. I have a little cake. I have a little cup of coffee. And I have some coffee beans, which I'm not going to use on this one. Actually, I might use them. So those are the kinds of the things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a pattern with all of these items, and going to do that all over the page. But I'm going to stamp very, very lightly. Excuse me. I'm going to stamp very lightly. Now I can take my colored pencils and I can color them in, and I can color them in at will, or I don't have to color them in at all, to be perfectly honest. So I can do really either of those things. All right, so I'm going to start with my Way Too Sweet, and then I'm going to move on to my little stencil here. And what I picked out was some warm gray ink, and I'm going to grab the lightest, I'm going to grab the second lightest color, which is even gray. Still want to be able to see it. Morning Frost is very, very light. And I'm just putting this under here to make sure that I have a nice spot for this. These are not layered, but I really like these little cupcakes. So I'm going to put these little cupcakes down. Just using a really tiny block, and I'm just going to condition my stamp. I haven't used these in a while. And again, what's nice is I can do these in any organization, any order. I'm literally just going to create random patterns. And because these are so light, I can right over them without a problem. So it's not really a big issue. I'm going to check out that Morning Frost. This is the Morning Frost, just to show you the difference between them. So I'm going for a little bit lighter. So you can see this one a little bit more, but I think I want this color, so I'm going to do that one. So I'm going to do these in Morning Frost moving forward. All right, and then one more. I was also thinking of doing this in a way of like, okay, I'm going to have my dinners here, but I realized that all of my stamps, all of my food stamps, for some reason, they're all cakes and desserts. So I'm like, well, that won't work because all I have are desserts. And that is not all that I eat. So I was like, what else could I do? You could do this in a rainbow as well. I'm keeping it neutral because of the fact that when I color these in, I'm going to color code them and use a rainbow to color code them. And I was thinking about, and I'd love some ideas, but I was thinking about doing it in a way that I could talk about savory dishes or different types of food. I really was struggling with how I was actually going to put them in. And I wasn't exactly sure how I wanted to do that yet. Okay. So those are my cupcakes, and those are from Way Too Sweet. So I thought that was really cute. Little cupcakes. And like I said, I can come in with a colored pencil and just color these really lightly if I wanted to. All right, so I thought this little cake was cute. I know, right, Leslie? Like, there's no salad stamp. Like, why isn't there a salad stamp? So I found this little guy called Grown with Love, and I'm like, that's kind of cute, but it's not food. It's, it's food in some ways, but it's really a little stand. So, oh yeah, that's a good one. And red could be for spicy food. I don't know. I was really thinking about this today, and I still haven't totally decided how I'm doing this. But I figured at least if I start off with just a little bit of a pattern. And these stamps really make light work of this because they're on the smaller side and you can start to move them around. And that's why I kept the little coffee beans, because the coffee beans could work with, it wouldn't sell, Leslie. But Leslie, salad is so good for you. There's got to be a salad stamp out there somewhere. Somebody has to have a salad stamp. Hi, Alicia. So glad you could join us. We are talking about recipe trackers today and whether or not there should be salad stamps. That's what we're talking about. All right, so now I got a little coffee cup. Or a teacup in my case. Teacup in my case. Because I don't drink coffee. There is, I know Altenew has that, or I doubt they have it anymore, but they had that steak one. Green vegetables, red meat, and blue fish. Yeah. I could have put fish on. I could have done the fish. I'll give you that one. I could have done fish. This is very large compared to the other guys. But you can see how you can start to build this little random. I don't know if you guys can see that. I probably should have switched over to the darker one. But you can kind of see how this is going, but creating this little random. So you can start to see that pattern emerging. Again, very random. I'm just kind of going around and just seeing what's fitting and what's not fitting. And I don't think I want to do another cup. Yes, I do. All right, I'm going to do one more cup, and then I'm going to switch over One more cup right up here. Okay. So that's my cup. And then I'm actually going to switch over to the stencil. The stencil is really cute. This is called Tea Time. I probably should have looked. I don't know if it's still available, to be perfectly honest. This one is from 2022. Maybe it is. And but it with it colored, it can do all these little tiny things. It's really cute. So I'm good though. I don't need the steak though. Yeah. I always was thinking about getting that one, but I decided not to. All right, so I'm going to use gray again, just to keep with this theme and make this very, very light. So I'll use my evening gray and my other gray. Okay, so let me take a look. So I'm going to use this over here. All right, is there like a little cupcake? Here we go. Morning Frost, evening gray. All right, so there are these little tiny cupcakes. So I'm just going to come in. There's one cupcake. And I'm just going to use what's left on here. So I'm not even going to get any more color. So there's my little tiny cupcake. And what else do we have? I think I'll do a little teapot. Okay, here's the lid of my teapot and the side of my teapot. And now it needs a handle, doesn't it? No, it does not. It does need a top, but the top came with the stamp. All right, and then I got some green. I'm going to grab Nature's Wonders. Here it is. And there's really cute little leaves in here. So I'm going to grab that. And this is just a little Misty More. So now I'm just kind of looking for little places to put in for these. Again, I'm trying to make this very light. That's my goal, is for this to be very light. And this goes up on this branch. All right, let me grab the gray. By the way, I'm using the same blending brush because these colors are so light. All right, I'm just doing this with a little bit of gray. And those look nice in there because those colors will go together. So, oh yeah, the sushi set. Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Tea Time is half price today. Oh, thank you so much, Anne. I had to put an order in anyway, so I will add that to my list. Because I've been meaning to buy the stamps, because it, with the outline stamp with this, because it's really cute. And it's such a cute little set. All right, I think I'm good. Actually, you know what would be cute? All right, last thing, I swear. I'm just using a little bit of the Misty More right over that gray so you can see it. So it's so subtle. I know it's so subtle. You guys are like, oh. Now I'm getting hungry. Sorry, Nancy. All right, so now I have set up kind of this background. So if you want to add a little bit more color, and I'll show you what I would do. And I know I'm getting close to my end of my time here, but I want to show you what I would do. Is now that we have a little bit of color here, I can grab, like, let's say I want to do a nice soft blue with this. I'm just going to grab this guy. So these are my colored pencils. And I can add a very very kind of light wash. I'm just going to go right across with my colored pencils. And that's what's nice about the colored pencils is you can be very, very light with them. So I am just barely going across with this. A little bit, the watercolored pencils would be fabulous here, probably even better. I'm just using the regular colored pencils, but the woodless watercolor pencils would be fabulous here. I'm going to do this a little bit darker and just come on up this way. And that way I'm adding just slightly a little bit of color, but it's still really subtle within there. So, oh, it's sold out. Of course it is, Anne. Of course it's sold out. But it just gives you a little bit of the subtle. So I'm doing this on purpose because of the fact that I want to be writing on top of this. So that's why I made these colors so subtle. You could even, for something like the cherry, like I'm not going to color the cake in, but I'll just do a slight bit of color on the cherry. And that just gives it just a little bit of color. So this is the cake. So all I'm doing is just coloring in the cherry. So you can be really selective with where you want that color to go. And it just gives a little bit of spritz of color on the outside. But that's kind of what I'm going for. All right, so now I have this. And I'm going to add some washi tape. I always like to add kind of something a little bit that has a tactile piece. I kind of seem to be liking that in my books. And washi is a very easy way to add something very tactile in your books. So I'm just going to add this right on here. And then what I wanted to do is I wanted to separate these out a little bit. So the first thing, and I was thinking about this because I'm like, well, I could do this as like a breakfast, lunch, or dinner. But the problem is I don't really make a separate lunch. Like typically for me, lunch is just leftover dinner. And I lost my scissors, folks. Thankfully, I have multiple pairs. All right. So I'm like, well, that doesn't really totally make sense. And then what I can add here is I can add in a picture of what these things are. So I'm going to start just by having a very light, just realized how crooked this was, a very light line. And I can go ahead and just kind of put these items and just put them right along the side. So like I have chicken noodle soup. That's something that I make. And sushi, I should have put the sushi in. That would have been fabulous. So I didn't think about that because I pulled this from I have a sushi set in a different brand. That's why. But that's what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to write these. So on this side, I'm going to create like a bunch of like savory things. This will be like my dinners, things that I make for lunch. And one thing that I can do after I do this is use my highlighter to highlight every other line. And in doing that, it helps to create some sort of definition. And I did that like here. So that's ultimately what I'm going to end up with is something like this. This was a list of lists that I made. And then these were all different kinds of lists that I have, like recipes to try, other crafts, and then this was trail walking. So I can use those highlighters, and I have them, but they're way across the room right now, in order to create these other things. I'm also, I think, going to separate this down the middle. So I end up with 2 columns instead of 1. So I'm just going to grab a very thin piece of blue washi tape, and I'm just going to separate this down the middle. And just by doing this, I create columns, and it doesn't look so odd because I'm like, it's just too far. There we go, that's better. And I'll do the same thing on the other side. So this, I can start to create these boxes. And then this creates a list. So I can take a look at this list when I'm needing some things, and I can, what I can do with this is to write down all these things, and I can have the family pick from them when I'm thinking about and talking to Brian about what our week is going to be and what we're going to have. This is another thing that I can do, is just to be like, hey, what the heck are we doing for dinners? And then I think what I'm going to do is vegetarian options. I think I'm going to have a column for that. I could have a column for seasonal things, like things seasonal, like for where I live, food, we don't always have everything in stock all the time. So sometimes there's seasonal foods. I can have something for canning. So what am I going to make or can? Something maybe for winter time that might be a little bit more winter time. So I think that's how I'm going to separate it out. I'm going to use this washi tape over on this side, and I'm just going to separate this right in half. And yep, so put that up there. All right. I could do side dishes. It's another thing that I could put in. Main dishes, side dishes, based on protein that you happen to put in. I'm actually going to put this right here as vegetarian options. This pen. So my vegetarian options, I can have desserts, other stuff. I think I'm going to separate this right here as well. And now I'm just putting it and just making it into some quadrants. And that gives me a space and a way to start to separate this out and delineate it. So I think it was just too much. And then I can start to categorize it. So if I have desserts that kids like, or kind of like special hors d'oeuvres or anything at all, then I can have those in here. And I'm going to go ahead and add in some more categories. And just get these ready for when I start going through my lists. Things I want to try. So I'll come back once I've worked through this, and I'll show you what I have come up with. And I may even grab my sushi set and make a couple more backgrounds here. All right, so let me show you what I got so far. So I have, this is my recipe tracker. So recipes that I've tried, that I've actually created that people like and I'll eat again. And so I have a section over here for typical meals. This is going to be like what our typical food is, typical meals. Vegetarian ones, because one of my children has decided that this is their lifestyle, which is totally fine. And maybe this is like side dishes, things that I can, sauces, jams, jellies, whatever the heck it is, desserts. And so that's what we have. But just having that little background just gives it a little bit of flair. And I can color the other things in, but you see how light it is, that now when we put the washi tape and when we have our writing in there, it's going to make a little bit of a difference. So I'd love for you to try this. And again, it's just a way that I can keep this down. And now this is a page that I can refer to when I'm like stuck for something at nighttime and I don't know what to cook. And I'm just like, oh, I don't know what to make. Now I can come over here and I don't need to go through my recipe cards because I know where these are, or I know how to make them. But I can come over here and say, okay, these are all the things that I know how to cook really well. And I can go and I can grab the recipes or write them down. But this is something that I have tried or made in this year. And so these are kind of the things that I like to do. So, all right, I hope that was helpful. And I agree, Tracy, we tried to do meatless. We were doing meatless Monday, and then we decided to do it like twice a week. We were doing like meatless meals twice a week. And that was really helpful because we were able to get in some more vegetarian options, which are fabulous. But the kids don't always eat them. So I need like kid-friendly meals. Like, what is it that the kids like to actually eat? And so I'm going to put those down as well. So I'll show you when I finish this up and actually get some recipes in there and some dishes in there. I'll share with you guys what it ends up looking like. But one way when you have lists like that is to highlight every other line. And that makes it look a little bit neater versus just kind of writing down a list. It just to your brain, it kind of looks a little bit organized. And that's true, Tracy. There's something called, I use it a lot. It's any sign of like random spinner. So I type in all my stuff in there and then I just hit spin and then it lands on it, and you can do it that way. Or we can just I can number these and then we just put them in a hat, and then the kids pick out what it is that they want to do. Or the kids can look at the list and be like, oh, I remember when you made this meal and I really liked it. Can you make that one again? So it just allows because sometimes like that to me is the hardest part, is just making the choice. Because my brain is just so tired about that. And Leslie, when you see it visually, like that's the important thing about a book like this, because this is such a visual thing. And when you see it visually, when it's line and line and line and line and line, it's really hard sometimes to like see what the heck you're looking at. But if you use that little highlighter trick and highlight every other line, then you can start to see it a little bit easier and a little bit better. Well, I hope you guys like this, and I hope that you were inspired today. And they do, Tracy. That was one of the things we started making. They can cook. I promise they can cook. And but I hope that this helped you today and set you up for your week. I hope you have a fabulous week. And yeah, check it out, Alicia. Don't worry about going back to the beginning. Just start, and just start today. Just track today what it is that you want to do. Set up your month. If you're just starting, set up your month and just give it a go. And it's kind of fun. I've been enjoying seeing the things that I do. I've been enjoying looking back. And there's some weeks where I have not tracked anything, and that's fine. But it makes me encouraged, like, oh, you know what? This is actually really do like it when I do that. So it's a good thing if you keep on doing that. So it's good. All right. And I will look for that tea time stamp set because it's got to be somewhere. All right. Thank you guys so much. I will see you tomorrow. I'm on the Altenew channel live, and we are doing something. Tracy, you told me what it was, so I will look for that, and I will hopefully see you guys there. And then we'll see you on Saturday the 10th at the Bridges Retreat. And then I have a class coming up on the 21st, and you can go to amyhillcreates.com, and I'm going to be sending out a PDF with a discount code starting tomorrow, I believe. Okay. All right. I hope you guys have a fabulous week, and I'll see you here next week for week 21. All right, everybody. I will